When we're teaching a beginner how to windsurf, or teaching anybody to learn anything, there's a few basic principles that we always need to keep in mind. Things like break the learning material into small steps, make sure the student has a clear understanding of what they're trying to learn. That's what we're going to talk about today, making sure that the student knows what the words that we're going to use during the lesson mean. Things like upwind, downwind, across the wind, dead zone, mast forward, mast back. We list all those out first so that during the lesson it's very clear to the student what they need to do and why. A lot of people come away from their beginning lessons with the idea that to change and control the direction your board is pointed, we lean the mast back to go upwind or closer to the wind, and forward to go downwind or away from the wind. Now that's true. At a more intermediate level, once people have control their direction, they can sort themselves out when the sail falls, then we start to teach them how to lock a little more power in the sail, lean back against it, use their feet to steer a little bit more. But at the beginning, this is an interesting technical point that comes up. Notice, here's your wind flowing this way, these green arrows are floating this way. I always get my students to stand with their back to the wind and their arms outstretched so they're pointing down this across the wind line. Everything we do in windsurfing depends on the wind, and especially an awareness of the across the wind line helps make everything clear. In fact, all my students tell me the more that they're encouraged to be aware of where that line is at all times, the easier everything becomes. Now, key point, mast forward to turn away from the wind does not necessarily mean to the front of the board. Mast forward always means across the wind. Mast forward, mast back, we'll use this mast only in this direction or only in this direction. If we lean our mast back, we head up towards the dead zone, we run out of power. To get going again in the same direction, we lean the mast forward, but not the front of the board. That won't catch any wind. It has to be across the wind. Then the sail catches the wind. We bear off, we get some power, and then we can correct our direction. Same thing if you're trying to go downwind, below the across the wind line. Mast forward doesn't mean lean it to the front of the board. That causes all sorts of problems. Mast forward is always going to be across the wind in that direction until we finish out the turn. I say this at the beginning of my lesson to all my students. I say this during the lesson. I say this after the lesson. Now, I say mast forward and mast back as shorthand for the power in the sail. If you want to be technical, we can talk about the center of effort of the sail, the center of lateral resistance in the board. My students who are engineers love that stuff, and I explain it to them that way. But this basic principle of leaning our mast across the wind this way or this way to control the direction of the board is one of the two basic key things that we tell all beginner windsurfers that everything boils down to in terms of board control. One of which, of course, is controlling the amount of power in the sail and not stalling the sail, finding a sweet spot where we have clean flow over the sail, and at the same time, while we do that, we move the mast forward and the mast back. This principle of leaning the mast forward or back to control the direction of the board holds true whether we're riding along, whether we're turning, whether the sail has fallen and we're picking it up out of the water. I tell my students, anytime you want to change the direction of the board, you need to push that mast across the wind this way or across the wind this way. And if you tell me that your board is not turning in the direction you want to go, I'm going to tell you that it's because you're not moving your mast accurately across the wind this way or across the wind this way. Now, usually that happens with beginners. Our brains are wired, so when we are in an unfamiliar situation, when we're learning something new, when we try to balance, we look down, we focus close. Key thing, keep your eyes up, focus on the big picture so you're always aware of where that line is. When we're doing our jibe, our first simple no power jibe, we're going to lean the mast across that way throughout the entire turn. until the board has completed its turn. When we do our tack, we lean our mast back this way. As soon as we get right into the dead zone and we step around the front, we continue pushing the mast this way until the board comes out of the wind. So, mast forward does not mean the front of the board. Mast forward means across the wind always. It doesn't matter where your board's pointed. It doesn't matter whether you're riding or turning. That's how to control the direction of the board. The vast majority of my students that come to me that have taken lessons somewhere else, this has never been shown to them. And they're either stuck in the dead zone trying to bring the mast here and not getting anywhere, or they're trying to do a jibe and they're bringing their mast or the power to they're trying to bring it straight downwind because that's where the front of the board is pointed. There's always an aha moment when I talk to my students and they realize mast forward does not mean towards the front of the board. I've had students after 3 hours of teaching, I've said it many times during the lesson, and at some point they come to me and they say, Matt, I just figured something out. Mast forward doesn't mean the front of the board. Mast forward means across the wind line. I say, yes. That's what we want you to figure out. And that's really a key thing because that's the way that we can keep the power in the sail at the same time that we're doing everything else we need to do, whether it's pushing with our feet to get the board turned in the direction we want, or whether we're trying to get extra power out of the sail. Now, if you're going exactly across the wind, then mast forward does happen to be the same direction that board is moving. But clear distinction, everybody should know this, and that just makes the technical progression much easier, much faster. It means people can control where they're going, they don't end up downwind. It makes everything smoother. They're spending all their time riding instead of doing the walk of shame or being confused. That's it for now.